What's up everybody, Geeky Amreeki here with the film review for the Hitman's Bodyguard. The movie was directed by Patrick Hughes with a screenplay by Tim O'Connor. Ryan Reynolds plays an extremely skilled but down on his luck bodyguard. Samuel Jackson plays a world-class assassin. Salma Hayek plays the assassin's wife. And Gary Oldman plays an East European dictator. So I saw this movie at Gulf Mall Cinecult in the MX4D theater. I was pretty excited because I haven't done the 4D theater experience. So first I'll talk about the 4D theater experience and then I'll get into what I thought of the movie. I've really been wanting to try the 4D experience since it came to Doha, but I've been a little hesitant because it cost 130 reals. That's literally what it costs for 4 tickets to a normal movie. Was seeing this movie in 4D the ultimate theater going experience, or was it a gimmick? In this case, it was definitely a gimmick because there are long gaps in between the action scenes. So you're sitting there and you're waiting for some kind of effect, and once in a while you get something small. Like at one point, somebody's brewing a cappuccino and a little breeze in your face and you smell some coffee. Woohoo! Wow. I'm glad that happened because it really took me there. I felt like I was in the kitchen with that guy making that coffee. It's cool, but for me it was distracting, and there were times where, there was a high-speed car chase and the seats are rumbling and they're rumbling really big, and all I'm doing is watching a movie trying to concentrate, and all I can think about is, wow, these seats are really shaking. For some reason, the default positioning of the seat seems to be leaning forward, so I'd be watching the movie like this. And it stays that way for long periods of time. And then when a car or a helicopter comes on scene, it'll shake and rumble and then it'll go back to the position that it really should be in most of the time. Also, something that was very distracting and actually detracted from my theater going experience was a delay. Someone drives over a puddle, and instead of feeling that splash right as the wheel hits the puddle, you see them on screen, they're driving, the tire hits, and 2 seconds later, the water in your face. Many times there's people shooting, bang, bang, and then the light, bang, bang, afterwards. So instead of enhancing what you're seeing and like, oh, you're really there, it distracts because, wow, that light was late. And sometimes it didn't even do it at all. At one point, this car hits and crashes into a river, and then nothing happens. Now, one of the problems with seeing this movie in 4D was that it wasn't a true 4D experience. The movie's not in 3D, it wasn't intended to be. There are these long sequences of character building and plot progression and characters with dialogue where there's no kind of 4D, so you're sitting there. And then all of a sudden something will happen and it kind of shocks you and again takes you out of that theater going experience. So I'm sad to say, as much as a movie geek as I am, unless a movie is made specifically for that 4D experience where the seats and the air and the smells and the water and the bumps in the back of your chair and your butt are designed with the film and it keeps a consistent flow all the way through the movie, I wouldn't go to see a 4D movie again. Like I said earlier, this movie cost 130 reals in 4D. I could have went to 4 different movies for that same amount of money. Now back to the movie. I'm not going to give plot points away or spoil it for you, so don't worry, there are no spoilers in this review. So Ryan Reynolds' bodyguard is tasked with protecting Samuel Jackson's assassin, and they have to get from point A to point B within a certain amount of time. So essentially this is a road trip movie with intermittent action sequences. And this works really well, part of the time. Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds' chemistry is hit or miss. There are certain scenes where they are just hilarious together because they're basically playing themselves. A lot of the action sequences are done really well, especially the fight sequences with Ryan Reynolds because there's minimum editing, there's a nice flow to it. Now we're not talking the Raid or the Raid 2 here, but they are quite good. Samuel Jackson's fight scenes are pretty good. Now there are definitely more cuts in these because, he's older and he probably didn't train as much as Ryan Reynolds had. But they're by no means bad. We're not talking about, Liam Neeson and Taken where, there's 30 cuts for him just to climb a fence. I think when O'Connor was writing the script, he was picturing something like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, or 48 Hours, or Midnight Run. The script was very stiff, and it didn't give a lot of room for improvisation. Maybe they did, but it never felt like it. No, don't get me wrong, Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson are both really funny and have pretty good comedic timing. One of the surprising things that was quite funny in the movie was Salma Hayek. She didn't have a big part in the film, but when they did show her, she was really funny. There was an action sequence with her that was done pretty well. There weren't a lot of cuts, it flowed nicely. Gary Oldman is one of the best actors when it comes to villains. Think about The Fifth Element, or True Romance, or The Professional, aka Leon. Amazing actor and an amazing villain. He is so wasted in this movie. He does nothing. It could have been any actor in this role. One of the things that really hurts this movie is the editing. 2 types of editing for us GCC viewers. One is the editing in the movie, and 2 is the editing done by the hacks that are the ministry censors in all of the GCC countries, let's be honest. They don't have standards. They edit what they want. There's no nuance to what they do, and that definitely shows in this movie. It's not a very philosophical, deep movie, but there is one point where they start to have a serious conversation, and Samuel Jackson goes to ask Ryan Reynolds a question, and it got completely cut. So they went from standing outside and talking about something very serious to the next thing joking about what they had talked about during that sequence that was cut. And that really hurt the movie. It really hurt the character development. There were so many cuts in this movie that afterwards I went to the manager's office and I asked them specifically, who does the editing? Do you guys cut? They said no. The movie comes into the country, it goes to the ministry, and there's some editors there who do the cutting. Now the editing in the movie itself, like I said, there are some really good action sequences, some car chases, some fights, some gunfights. At one point, there's a really good car chase that happens along the canals of Amsterdam. The cuts were so fast and they didn't seem to have a point to them, and they didn't try to bring your eye all to the center or the left or the right, say like a Mad Max Fury Road. It just left it kind of convoluted and it took away from it. And the last thing that kind of hurt this movie was the very noticeable CGI. There's a certain part where some people are talking on the roof, and for some reason they use a green screen, and it's very obvious. It's like Phantom Menace obvious, or The Mechanic 2 obvious. It's very badly done. Now the movie's not a complete waste of time. It is pretty fun. I would not recommend seeing it in 4D at all, and I definitely wouldn't even recommend seeing it at the theater unless you're just looking to waste some time and go to the movies and it's the only thing that's there. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this movie's meh. So that's my review for the 4D cinema and my review for the Hitman's Bodyguard. Let me know what you thought of the movie and of the 4D cinema in the comment sections below. Until next time, thanks for watching and see you later.